Madame the President, Monsieur le Premier Ministre, Mesdames et Messieurs, indeed, I'm here to send a message to the United Nations in New York. What I'm going to say is just to remind them that what happened in Camp Liberty, it was predictable. We did warn against it. But unfortunately, the United Nations was mobilized to hide the truth. Madam the President, let me tell you that the press release made by UNAMI in Kobler, as early as back in October 2011, there was a message, a code cable we sent to New York to say that the MEK has such a powerful propaganda machinery, and the United Nations has to prepare itself to counter this propaganda. And straight away, SRSG, the Special Representative of the Secretary General, instructed to put down a number of scenarios and draft a press release for each scenario possible. You have read the statement made after the assassination of the Ashrafis in Camp Liberty. Reference is made to explosions in the camp. What does that mean? Explosions in the camp? It means that there is a probability that the Ashrafis themselves caused these explosions. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is rather criminal. In this, I would like to go back to Camp Liberty. I'll take you on a visit to Camp Liberty. Because so far we've been talking about reports of the United Nations about the conditions of living in Camp Liberty. But we had never spoken about the security assessment of Camp Liberty. Security assessment was made differently, separately from the conditions of living in Camp Liberty. I was the first to lead the mission to Camp Liberty with the security personnel of the UNAMI. And the first thing we pointed at is that the T-walls, for those who are not familiar with these T-walls, they are very solid, concrete walls in the shape of a T, but put upside down so the base is on them. This is what a T-wall. The T-walls were designed the way they were put around the camp to restrict the movement of the residents. On top of the T-walls, you have these cameras, barbed wire, and cameras on top of and listening devices. I'm not a security expert, but my team was there, security experts were there. They said this is designed in order to control, the crowd control. Crowd control, it means that there are plans to be executed in the future, but it's a question of when. I don't want to go further on this. I will come back to it in a minute. But let me just remind you what Cobbler said to the Ashrafis when he said that I signed on your behalf to save life. And we did warn him that what he's doing is not saving life. In fact, around the table with UNAMI leadership, we were discussing how to cut the head of the body. Relocation, which is not a relocation, it's forcible eviction. The real aim is to disband the Ashrafis, but there is no way to disband them, so you have to take the leadership away from the population of Camp Liberty. In that sense, and this is the language we used, that the rest of the population will go, each and every one, their way. They will disappear in the nature. But the leadership will be arrested. And from this platform, I warn again that there will be further attacks. There will be further attacks and there will be arrests. I'm certain about that. But why is the United Nations keeping quiet on this? These are plans. We know them. We put them. So why is the United Nations keeping quiet? In fact, a lot of people ask question why Cobbler is more enthusiastic about closing down Camp Ashraf and moving people to Camp Liberty more than anybody else, more than the Iraqis themselves. Why? And let me tell you, this is a man who is in charge of a mission. The mission is to establish some love relationship between UNAMI and the Prime Minister al-Maliki. This is clear. And so far, so good for the Prime Minister al-Maliki because he actually held UNAMI as a hostage. In another forum, I put it, UNAMI has been mortgaged. And Cobbler is paying this mortgage. This is absolutely the reality. And the United Nations in New York is approving this. All they care about is to be seen. That they have, the war took place, the United Nations cleaned the place, had setting up a government, democratically, a government that respects human rights. And now, here is the United Nations helping this government. Let me remind you that Ashrafis, the 36 who were detained, were actually taken to a detention center, a secret prison, run by the 56th Brigade. It's a notorious brigade that belongs to the Prime Minister directly. It doesn't belong to any corps of the army. It belongs to the Prime Minister, 56th Brigade. This place, this detention or secret prison is called Sharaf, not Ashraf, Sharaf. Sharaf prison. Again, here is so ironic that such a secret prison to be called Sharaf, dignity. The 36 were held there, just a few meters away from the villa of the SRSG. And yet, the SRSG, today he goes to Camp Liberty, he tells them, listen, I live in a place exactly like yours. This man is not stopping misleading the international community. He tells them, I live in a place like yours with T-walls. Let me tell you exactly what this place is like. The UN compound in the green zone. The green zone itself is a huge security arrangement put in place, but the residence of the UN, you have first the roofings, very important because the missiles that come from above, usually they penetrate the roof and explode and cause damage. The roofing in the UNAMI compound is impossible to penetrate. You have 1 meter sandbags on the roofs. Then you have steel covering. Then a 1 meter emptiness. Then another layer of sandbags, which makes it impossible for any missile to come penetrate and reach the walls. The walls of the containers we lived in, there is 1 meter wide sandbags wall protecting the container. Again, an RPG cannot penetrate the walls of the... And when I hear that the SRG is comparing his residence to Camp Liberty, Camp Liberty are containers with soft skin. A strong soldier could hit it with one hand and just break it. But the worst is the high density of the population in half kilometer square. The high density, it makes it so vulnerable to the extent if you throw a stone from outside the wall, you will be bound to touch somebody. It's so crowded, so dense. So these are not secret to the United Nations. These have been reported to in New York. And yet, we are telling the Ashrafis that we take you to a place in order to save your life. If this is saving life, it defeats me, and also it makes it rather difficult to see the American taxpayer, the French taxpayer, the German taxpayer, contributing to establishing such a system to persecute the Ashrafis and commit such atrocities in Ashraf and Camp Liberty. I want to say that as long as the people in charge of Ashraf are misleading the international community, and the international community is taking seriously what they're saying, there will be again serious crimes taking place in Camp Liberty, and it's time to stop it. How to stop it? To me, it's very obvious. While the present format of UNAMI is in place, there will be massacres, and there will be covering up. The human rights reports, and I said it before the Congress, that it's been doctored. We prepare reports with the intention not to upset al-Maliki. These reports, before they are made public, they are revised in Geneva and in New York, and they put their last word. Anything that is likely to upset al-Maliki will be deleted. This is how we functioned in UNAMI. I'll add another point about the media and the counterattacking the MEK propaganda. The Office of the Public Information, the Office Public Information of UNAMI made it its task to, on a daily basis, collect all the information published, whether in Iraq or outside Iraq, that reports negative things about Ashrafis. We put them in a report and present them to all United Nations quarters to see how the press reports about the Ashrafis. And this is done intentionally to harm the Ashrafis. I have lots of very important issues to bring to the attention, not of this public, but to New York. I would like to just mention very briefly, if Mr. the President will allow me, a little comparison when we look around for solutions. I would like to give you a little comparison between the similar camp in Iraq called Camp Mahmour. Camp Mahmour is a place where 11,000 members of PKK, the Kurdistan Working Party, they live in Camp Mahmour, and they are armed. It's an armed group that are fighting Turkey. This group walks around in the camp with arms in their hands openly. Nobody bothers them. But when the United Nations wanted to take care of them, within 3 months, the UNHCR registered them and regularized their situation and gave them traveling documents. They gave them the right to move around in Iraq. They gave them the right to undertake income-generating activities. They also have travel documents to go abroad for those who want to study or those who want to go as tourists, whatever. This is in Camp Mahmour. And I personally raised this issue with UNHCR. I said, why this double standard? Here we have in Ashraf a population that has been disarmed years ago, verified by the Americans and the Iraqis, and now it's a civilian population, disarmed civilian population. Here we have, on the other hand, an armed group carrying arms openly. These ones, they benefit from the protection, and Mahmour is declared as a refugee camp. So when we ask why not, why this double standard, I never got any answer to my question. I said this, and I would like to say I take responsibility about what I'm saying. And the ball is in the camp of New York. They should dispatch immediately a commission of inquiry, not only to look into the circumstances of this massacre, but also to look into how the UNAMI and Kobler are handling this situation. This is an option. The second option, they could take what I'm saying as defamation of the United Nations and take me to court. So keeping quiet is not a solution, is not an answer. There are I am a witness, and I'm saying what I'm saying, taking responsibility, take me to court or dispatch a commission of inquiry. But to keep it quiet is unacceptable. Thank you very much.